All right. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's been a little while since I've been on the live stream. But, oh shit, I just forgot my notes. 1 second, hang tight. I'll be right back. Just gotta run downstairs. All right, everybody. Welcome back. Been on a bit of an extended hiatus. However, I now am back on the live stream with a renewed vigor. I have renewed zeal and passion and commitment. And in all seriousness, I've been thinking a lot about this live stream and both the victories and the failures of the past year, what I've liked about my experiments with YouTube and what I've disliked about my experiments with YouTube, what I think I do well and what I think I do poorly. And I've had a bunch of observations, really. And now that my life is kind of going off the rails, and I will very, very likely soon have a lot of free time, I basically have been spending the time thinking about how I can optimize, let's say, everything I've been doing over the past year, the blog, the live stream, all of the creative stuff I've been doing. You know, what's really working well, what's really not worth it, what feels like it's the most worthwhile, and what is kind of a waste of time, or what maybe I'm doing for unconscious bad reasons. And yeah, so I've taken the past couple of weeks to really reflect on that, because now, especially when I'm released from my job, assuming I'm released from my job quite soon, there's probably like a 95% probability that's going to happen. I would like to, I'm planning to, and I basically already am. I'm going to basically upgrade all of my projects to, let's call it a 2.0 status or something like that. So a few things are going to change. And one of them is that I realized I was doing too many live streams. There were a couple of weeks where I was doing a live stream like 3 times a week. Sometimes I would do random live streams by myself, where I would just talk for like 2 hours about random stuff. There were a couple live streams I did where I tried to basically kind of do something more focused and substantial, like almost like a lecture. And some of that was good. There were some good bits in there. But on the whole, one of my realizations has been that, well, there have been a few. One is I was just doing live streams too much. And although it's quite easy to just fire up the computer and start talking, you know, you do really try to focus your attention and give your best mental effort. And, you know, even 1 hour, 2 hours of that is pretty draining. And so it does add up, and it does distract away from other things. And one of the things that I feel very confident about is that I think for any kind of serious intellectual life, really writing is almost certainly going to be the centerpiece of it, or it should be the centerpiece of it. And so, yeah, moving forward, especially over the next few months, most likely over the next year or so, I really want to make sure that most of my effort goes towards high quality, serious writing of the best kind that I'm capable of. But this is also good for, you know, my experiments on YouTube and things like this, because ideally my more creative kind of audio visual stuff that I do or mess around with on YouTube and the podcast would be downstream of more significant, focused, and original ideas and content. And so, yeah, basically what I realized was that when I was just experimenting and kind of doing everything, like messing with the podcast, messing with the live stream, writing blog posts, just, you know, it's basically just throwing spaghetti at the wall for like, you know, months and months really last year. I learned a lot, but it was just basically very unfocused, unconsciously distributing my time to whatever kind of I felt like it. And then actually a major drawback of that is you actually end up burning a lot of energy just deciding what you want to do. So these are all the things I've considered and I'm rationalizing. So yeah, I'm going to do less live streams. I'm still going to commit to doing at the very least one per week, and probably in most weeks there'll be two, probably. Maxwell, you think I'm a stronger video personality than a writer. Well, thank you, and I appreciate that. I definitely think some people think otherwise, and that's fine. I want to do both. I want to have a kind of really creative, kind of multimedia type of intellectual life and project. So it makes sense. Like some people like different forms better than others. Maybe some people think my writing sucks. That's fine. It's totally fine. Seriously, that's why I'm interested in doing all these different things, because I just have ideas and I want to work on those ideas and I want to discover things and share those things as effectively as possible. So that's exactly why serious intellectuals should use multiple platforms. We want to create machines in which your writing plugs into your speaking, which plugs into the podcast, which plugs into the YouTube, which plugs into everything else. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. The feedback is useful. Yeah, things like accepting calls and stuff like that. I'm definitely going to review all the things that I've experimented with. And yeah, I mean, if there's certain things you think that have been especially good or valuable or cool or whatever, yeah, definitely let me know. It's useful to know. So anyway, that's one thing that I've decided and kind of committed to myself and that I'm sharing with you to expect over the next, few months at the very least. Obviously, I update my processes as I go, but at least for the next, several weeks, months, most likely, and maybe even the next whole year, my current vision as it stands is, one, do less live streams. Specifically, I'm going to commit to doing one at the very least every week. I'll be on the live stream at this time. So for now, that's Thursday at 9 p.m. UK time, which is 4 p.m. Eastern time. So yeah, just as a basic, baseline minimum for those of you who like to kind of hear my stuff on YouTube and hang out with me here, I will be on here at this time every week at a bare minimum. And I'm also going to be rejuvenating the live stream conversations that I've been doing. I think those were quite rewarding and people value them, and I find them intrinsically valuable. So we're going to keep that going, and specifically on the theme of, or not really the theme, but I think the mission is kind of coming into focus, which is trying to find all of the coolest, most interesting, or at least just kind of weirdest and most peculiar and unique internet intellectuals in some sense. I think that's one of the best phrases my mind can find. Intellectual, I understood in a very broad sense, just people who are doing creative, projects with any kind of, intelligent or intellectual character behind them, even if it's stuff that maybe a lot of people would think of as not that intelligent. If there's something real going on under the hood, to me, if it passes my sniff test of just something strange or interesting, or living and breathing in a way that I'm curious about, if it passes that sniff test, then yeah, I want to use my live stream as a space and time to just explore interesting, weird internet intellectuals around, whether it be Twitter or the blogosphere or whatever. I think that's been the best of my YouTube live stream conversations, and that's what I want to focus on, I think. So I am resuming that, even starting this weekend. On Sunday, I'll be talking with Mimetic Value, who's an interesting cat on Twitter. I don't know how many of you know of Mimetic Value, but very analytical, kind of does, like, it's strange. He's strange. He's hard to describe in a sentence, but very analytical, clearly very intelligent. I don't really know too much about him. He has a website called Mimetic Arbitrage. He seems to have a kind of overarching theory of value and of the mimetic nature of value. The one thing that I know about I'm laughing at that last comment. The one thing I know about mimetic value is, or one of the things I do know about mimetic value is he, like he's a very big fan of Diogenes of Sinope, the ancient cynic, who, in my opinion, is basically the real patron saint of what today we would call free speech. And also, in my view, one of the greatest political revolutionaries ever. Certainly one of the most intellectual revolutionaries, I would say, but also one of the greatest political revolutionaries. And that's something I've been writing a little bit about recently, and you'll see some stuff about that coming out soon. But that's something that I know mimetic value is also aware of and interested in. So that's something that I think hopefully we'll talk about, Diogenes of Sinope. But also I just want to hear more about his general project of, this idea of mimetic value. So what else? Right. So yeah, we'll be doing, at the very least, this live stream. I'll be here talking about whatever's on my mind. So at the minimum, we'll do this live stream on Thursday nights, and whoever else happens to be around who I have some other live stream conversation with. But in terms of like the solo live streams where I just fire it up and do something, I'm gonna stick to just doing this one time a week. I think that's good to have as a minimum for us to, stay in touch, and for me to keep you posted, for those of you who like to hang out on YouTube. But making that a commitment will kind of prevent me from just getting kind of carried away, like doing 3 or 4 live streams a week for no reason, just to feel like I'm being productive. But in fact, I'm dissipating my energy into who knows what. The other thing is, for these live streams, I'm going to commit to making them 1 hour. And as you might know, if you've followed a lot of my stuff on YouTube, I'm hyperverbal. I can easily turn on the camera and talk for like 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours. And the truth is, I can talk that long, but I know myself well, and I know from experience that about at the 1 hour mark, I start to kind of deteriorate. And the second hour is usually, I can hold it together, and I can do a proper 2 hour talk, but I can feel it I can feel my quality and intensity and focus kind of drifting and deteriorating from about the 1 hour mark. And then by the 2 hour mark, by the time I hit 2 hours, as I said, I can keep talking, and I'm so hyperverbal that my instinct is to keep talking. Like once I'm on a roll, I want to just keep going, but I know that my quality is suffering, and I end up the really long live streams where I don't have a kind of ceiling that I'm committed to, or an endpoint that I'm committed to. I have strong memories when I was doing a lot of live streams, that it was after those sessions that I would just walk away from the computer feeling kind of gross, honestly, like a little drained, a little like almost in a almost unconscious daze, like I don't even remember what I was saying. And another thing is that the more you talk, like the longer you do a live stream, especially when it's just random, like talking, like I sometimes do, I find that my speech gets choppier. I get a little bit more boring, and there's long pauses and ums and ahs. But if I commit to only doing an hour, I can give you this clear, crisp, focused presentation where every single point is spoken with clarity and precision, and I don't take long pauses, and I'm, sitting up straight and thinking and speaking clearly the entire time with high energy. So yes, I believe that if I commit to doing 1 hour maximum, then I know I'll come with my A game from the beginning to the end of every live stream. So I think that's wise for me to do, because if I don't set that limit, I'll just, I run the risk of talking myself into, my less than best form. Another thing is, I will say that, these sessions that, I'm going to do every week, not every Thursday night, I encourage, questions and comments. I'll always have some talking points planned, probably mostly from stuff I've been reading and writing and working on that week. But I'm not going to pack it too much. I'm not going to have like very ambitious intellectual goals for these live streams. I'm just going to share what's on my mind, share what I've been working on, and there'll be plenty of time. So if you have questions or comments or want to share anything with me, this would be a great time to do it on Thursday nights. So I got a few people in the chat who are saying I should speak with Logo I think they're referring to Logo Degelus, the Twitter writer. Yeah, I've talked with Logo. I think I've told you all the story before. I'm happy to talk with him. I've invited him on the live stream, and he, I mean, I don't need to stir shit. I'll just say that he, I don't think he's interested. I think he has, I don't fully understand his perspective is the most generous way to put it. But last I talked to him, I don't think he's interested. Fair play to him. Best of luck to him. If he changes his mind, I'm happy to have him on at any time. So the three of you who want me to talk with Logo, I mean, I don't tell people to harass other people, but in all seriousness, if like you want Logo to talk with me on here, maybe kindly send him one message, letting him know that. Don't harass him. If he doesn't want to, it's fine. But maybe he would change his mind if he knew that a lot of people would like for us to speak. Maxwell says I need to bully him into doing it, but no, it's not my style. I don't bully anyone into doing anything. Oswald says get Douglas Lane on. I'd be happy to talk with Doug Lane. I did Doug Lane's Zero Books podcast. Nice guy, smart guy. I've seen his YouTube videos, and I'd be happy to talk with Doug Lane. He's on my long list of people to reach out to. I have this like massive list that people have suggested to me over the months. And yeah, basically I spent the past like week sitting down on my like Apple Calendar app, basically mapping out like a full-time work schedule for treating all of my internet work as literally a full-time job. So one of the things that I've scheduled now, and I've had to schedule it because this is one thing that I've been putting off too long, I don't do this regularly enough, is actually writing out emails and invitations to people to ask them to speak with me. So it's time consuming, it's annoying. It's always kind of demoralizing when people ignore you, as is inevitable. So it's the kind of thing you put off if you don't really schedule and force yourself to do it. So I now have that on the schedule. I'm going to be doing that regularly. So yeah. But so I have this massive long list of people to invite. Everyone that you've suggested in the past, I've taken note and I'll try them. But you know, still, if you have any other people you want me to talk to, I'm always happy to hear new suggestions. What do critical theorists think about relativism? It's a good question. Would require a much longer discussion, but my instinct would be what you have in mind when you say critical theorists. Probably lean towards relativism. I'm assuming that you mean relativism with respect to you know, epistemology. Like, is there like the nature of truth or knowledge? The nature of what we can know, is our knowledge relative or objective? I think most critical theorists lean towards relativism in that regard, but I mean that's just a kind of broad correlation that I'm guessing. One could say much more interesting things about that, I'm sure. What else? Mr. Spooner says, I've had a great run of guests, by the way. Thank you. Yeah, I've had some really good people. And so I'm really keen to keep it going. Doug Lane doesn't really make arguments as much as he just calls things fascist dismissively. It doesn't strike me as intellectually driven. I mean, I think Doug is definitely a smart dude, a nice guy. And his videos, I've watched a few of them, you know, from beginning to end, which is more than I could say for a lot of YouTubers. And yeah, I would quite like to talk to him. Maybe he'll return me the favor and come on here after I did his podcast. And yeah, I mean, the truth is, well, I was going to make another comment, but I'll save that. It was just about some of my ideas for what I want to do on YouTube. But it's best not to promise things. It's best to just do things and not say what you're going to do, but do them. So what else? Right. Another thing that I want to share is that basically I'm so done talking about my academic employment nonsense. It's so just, I'm so annoyed, and like I'm not annoyed by the conflict. The conflict itself is actually quite dramatic and entertaining and amusing, but I'm tired of talking about myself and my academic employment woes and problems. I do still have a lot of thoughts and observations to get off my chest, and that's why I'm going to keep kind of writing these long blog posts telling the whole story and kind of explaining my observations and views on the matter. But frankly, I'm just looking forward to getting it all out of my system and then putting the whole conflict behind me. Yeah. So most of what I'm thinking about now and planning for the next few months is, my blog and this live stream and the book projects that I'm working on. It's all just going to be focused on the ideas that I'm interested in and the what I'm working on. So yeah, basically that's just a long way of saying I'm pretty sick of talking about the nonsense in my like personal employment life. I'm just sick of it. And I'm really looking forward to putting that behind me. So I suspect a lot of you are probably getting sick of it too. And yeah, so I just want to move on to a kind of unqualified focus on the most interesting questions that I can answer, and then developing the answers to the questions I'm interested in, and sharing those in multiple ways. So that's the plan. Once I have this academic nonsense behind me, and I should say it's not yet behind me. I mean, I will be talking about this at least somewhat until it's all over. By the way, that will probably be February 13th. I have a hearing now on February 13th, in which my fate will be judged once and for all, at least in the academic world. And yeah, I think there's a high degree of certainty about what's going to happen. My union reps think that, it's like virtually impossible that I would not get dismissed, basically, is what the diagnosis appears to be. However, there's a little bit of how should I put it? There's a little bit of a possible curveball in the way the narrative may unfold, because the curveball might be that I could, if I wanted to, decide to resign before the hearing. And that would be a very interesting turn of events for a few reasons. One, if I were to resign, they could choose to just close down the whole disciplinary process, decide that it's not really worth the money and expense. And, when you fire someone, there is always a little bit of legal liability. Maybe they fired me for the wrong reasons, or I could mount a legal, lawsuit against them or something like that. They always have to be worried about that. And they did actually make a lot of mistakes in this process. So I think in my case, there would be, I think they are probably quite afraid of that. So I could just resign, and they might decide to just wrap the thing up. Less risk on their part, less time and expense on their part. My union rep and other people think that I've probably pissed them off so much that there's no way they're going to let this go without some kind of symbolic judgment of some kind against me. So what's interesting is, even if I resigned, they could still dismiss me. So that's kind of interesting, and it's pretty unheard of. Like, that doesn't really happen that much. Usually if someone resigns, they resign. So that would kind of be interesting. I haven't decided exactly what I'm doing, but there's some possibility that I will resign be ahead of that. In any event, February 13th will be the absolute latest that all of this will be decided and concluded, basically. And I'm really looking forward to it all being over. Yeah. So until then, I will keep you posted on how everything unfolds. But to be frank, I'm just getting exhausted about talking about the details of my personal, employment life. I don't mind talking about the personal details of my life, which I actually quite enjoy. But I like talking about my real life, true life, and not, the intricacies of my, bourgeois academic intrigues. Brantley says, resign an hour before the hearing. Yeah, I mean, I'm half a mind to do something like that. Part of me wants to resign just for the kind of pleasure of saying, you can't fire me, I quit. Eddie Murphy meme. And then what's also kind of attractive about that is, like, even if they were to dismiss me after I resigned, reality is a plastic thing. And I could, the benefit of it is I could tell, like, my mother and grandmother, like, I just tell them I resigned from my job. That's what happened. That's all that happened. Well, I wouldn't say that's all that happened, because I don't lie. You can't lie. But I could say, in all honesty, I resigned from my job. And if it just so happens that I was dismissed for gross misconduct a little bit after that, well, I mean, I don't acknowledge the legitimacy of that because I already resigned. And, I wouldn't suppress it or hide the truth or lie about the truth, but I could just end the story by saying I resigned because as far as I'm concerned, I did. And that would be all that matters. And also I could, for instance, like tell my, I have a little bit of trepidation about telling my PhD supervisors and, like my, all of the academics at my PhD institution, they're all very proud of me because I went on and did quite well as a PhD student, getting a good job and getting good publications. I really succeeded as a PhD in political science. And, I know that a lot of my former mentors are, very proud of me. And I'm a little trepidatious about if they're following what's going on. They probably aren't even following. But if I do, if and when I do leave academia once and for all on whatever terms that might be, I'm a little, I wouldn't say sad. And I'm certainly not, ashamed or apologetic necessarily, but it's a little uncomfortable. It will be a little bit uncomfortable telling them and explaining to them what happened. So yeah, I would rather not have to tell them I was fired. Obviously I don't really give a shit about that. And I don't think many people do nowadays. Like, getting fired from academia is probably becoming more of a badge of honor than anything. But, for my mentors who are older and who were very proud of me for kind of succeeding as a academic, yeah, I'm a little afraid that might upset them or maybe even make them angry or something like that, because they did kind of put their name on me a little bit. They did kind of endorse me or vouch for me. So it would be kind of nice to, send in my resignation later that day, just email my PhD supervisors and say, hey, just wanted to let you know, I've had a good run. Thank you so much for everything you've ever done for me. I'm happy with what I've accomplished, but I've decided to resign from academia and I'm done. If a few weeks later I also get summarily dismissed for gross misconduct, you don't have to tell people every little detail of every single story, So that's one reason why I might want to resign, to be perfect, to shoot perfectly straight with you. But we'll see. I still have to decide how I want to play it. Maxwell asks, did your antics make the news? LOL. Surprised they haven't heard of it already. Yeah, well, people, one of the things that's been really interesting about this whole process is, well, first of all, I'm in the UK and my, my case was in the Daily Mail in the UK a couple times, but not everything travels over to the US, first of all. Second of all, like high functioning professionals, they usually are not spending a lot of time on Facebook and Twitter, like paying attention to all of the drama of people that are, like less prestigious than them, like busy, prestigious individuals and like highly demanding professions. They spend almost all of their time working, really. Yeah, they read the news here and there, but they generally don't really pay that much attention to nonsense. Like my case is, my conflict with my employer is just another bit of social media nonsense, really. So I've actually noticed, I've been surprised how many, because I talked to a lot of people over the past few months, people like my jujitsu buddies and people I meet at social gatherings or whatever it might be. And I'm quite struck by how few people have heard about it. And that's even like in Southampton. So yeah, basically the moral of that story, kids, is having a few headlines in the Daily Mail that are negative about you actually doesn't really mean that much. It doesn't really hurt your reputation at all, really, as far as I can tell. So that's been my impression anyway. Yeah, so Isaac says that you read my stuff on self-publishing today. I'm thinking of trying your model, says Isaac. Great stuff. Thank you for the kind words. Glad you read it. Yeah, look, my life over the next several months is going to be a big practical experiment, because now it's basically sink or swim for me. Like all of this kind of experimental, creative, intellectual stuff I've been doing on the internet, to the detriment or to the cost of my academic work. Now it's my other life has become my main life now. And so I'm really excited because I'm also, I'm a little nervous, but I'm ultimately really excited because now basically I have this unique little opportunity, a stretch of at least a few months where I can basically just do this stuff full time with a vengeance, like treat it like a serious full time profession, really, and take everything I've learned over the past few months and try to whip all these projects into a kind of really serious full time uh, intellectual production apparatus. And so, yeah, I'm writing about how I'm going to do that. I'm trying to think it through. I'm trying to optimize it. And yeah, so I got actually another email from someone who really liked that post and said they've been thinking about the same thing. And so we had a little dialogue about that. So I think, yeah, I think I have my finger on something. The hard part is figuring out how to do it and how to play it. But yeah, I'll keep you posted. And I think I'm confident I'm gonna find a way to hack it. All right. Do you think your department colleagues would welcome you back after all the drama? My department colleagues probably don't care that much. I imagine that at least a few of them are pretty salty. Like they probably just think I'm an asshole and, God, Justin, we knew you were a little wacky, but did you really have to go and do this and make all this annoying trouble? I think a few of them are probably quite annoyed by me, but they're probably, I can't imagine they're that angry. I mean, I got along well with everyone in my department. So I suspect there's a few people who are kind of annoyed, but not that angry. And then I suspect the majority of them just don't care, because that's just how things usually are in most institutions. The majority of people just aren't really paying too much attention, not really too bothered either way. And I know there's a few people who love what I'm doing and totally get it. Like one of the things about having this kind of conflict or this drama is, yeah, you always lose a few friends, but you always gain more, really. Like, I've met new people at the university. There are professors at the university who have emailed me who have invited me out to drinks and to meet people and to, participate in their like discussion groups and stuff like that. I've been approached by people I never would have met before otherwise because they like what I'm doing. They totally get it. And yeah, they want to know me. They want to support it. They want to, whatever, be a part of it. So in my case, look, this type of thing has happened to me like at least 4 times in my life, like 4 separate major occasions where my just like constitutional need to say some things got me in a lot of trouble. I lost a bunch of friends, kind of got pushed out or kicked out of something, and then also like made a whole bunch of new friends from it. Like that's happened to me at least 4 times. And those are episodes I want to also go into more detail. They'll probably be in this kind of book project that I'm working on as I kind of vomit out all of my experiences and observations around this particular academic conflict I'm having. But yeah, this is like a recurring feature of these sorts of situations as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, if you're ever going through this kind of thing, I wouldn't be too worried about a few people not liking you, because if you, stick to your guns and just say what you really think, then there's always going to be more people that actually like that. All right. So in my notes also, I already said that. So there's one thing that I'm going to be doing over the next few months that I have not done before yet. And this is going to be kind of one of the new planks, if you will, to the kind of creative intellectual project or platform I've been developing. And it's basically the one thing I can do now that I really was never able to do before as an academic is actually taking all of my content that I have developed as a lecturer, my class content, my course content, like lecture slides and stuff like that, and syllabi, taking those teaching materials that I've developed myself over the past several years. And now I can actually take those and I can convert them into online courses, basically, I can basically refashion them or repurpose them in a way that I think would be more useful and interesting and compelling to a more popular audience. When you're teaching a class in a university as a proper academic political scientist, there's a certain kind of catechism that you kind of are expected to stick to. It's partially because of sort of inherited norms in the university that you're teaching at. there's usually some sort of teaching structure, some minimal structure at least, that you're expected to kind of follow. And then there's the norms of your discipline. There's certain, worshipped researchers or figures in the discipline that everyone is just expected to cite and to kind of organize stuff around. If you're a proper political scientist, for instance, teaching, politics of the media or something like that, there are certain, highly influential media research pieces in the discipline you have to cite, or else you just shows you don't know what you're talking about in the discipline. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. And some of it's worthwhile, like some of that's good research. But basically what I'm getting at is a lot of my course content that I've developed for university classes is not exactly how I would do it if I could do it completely on my own for like the widest possible audience. And so, yeah, now I have all these materials that I can now do what I want with them. And yeah, so that's one of the things I want to do. And it's not that much of a risk because I already have a lot of the material, and I'm kind of curious, like, can I take this teaching content that I have and actually turn it into something really cool and compelling and valuable enough that people are interested in enough and having that to actually pay me a little bit for it. So yeah, I mean, as many of you I'm sure are aware, plenty of people, thousands of people sell courses online. A lot of the ones that I've seen that are most successful, they tend to be something that it is, so they're offering a skill that is itself directly profitable, right? So like computer programming stuff, or like how to sell a product or something like that. There are lots of these types of courses that seem to do quite well, and they often are priced at, $200 or something a pop. And that comes with a bunch of lecture videos and materials and this and that. So there's plenty of that. That's clearly doable and people do. But my case is different because I don't want to sell products. I don't want to sell marketing shit. I don't want to be a self-help guru. I refuse to do that. I want to develop, as a part of my like personal long-term intellectual research agenda, I want to figure out how to develop online courses using the knowledge that I have and the research that I know and that I do. I want to develop online courses that are like actually worthwhile to people, that they'll be like, this is so interesting, this is so valuable or useful or fun or compelling or whatever, these different types of things that people want to get out of genuine intellectual work. I want to develop courses that are so much of these things that people are like, fuck yeah, I'll part with, whatever, $20 maybe, to buy this course. I really have no idea how I'm going to do it, or how it's going to look, or what's going to be included, or how it's going to be priced, or anything like that. I'm not really thinking. I'll just kind of wing that as I go. But I know that I want to take a stab at doing this, if only because I have teaching content, I have teaching materials, and there's no harm in just basically trying my best to package it as something that people will find valuable and useful. And yeah, I mean, I've been like blogging and talking on here and doing these things for more than a year now. Like, so I have a sense of like what people are most kind of interested in and stuff like that. So yeah, I have a sense that I'll be able to do that. I mean, I'll quickly mention, some of you might have heard me talk about it before, but I have, over the past couple of months, I've been developing a private seminar program. It's really simple. It's basically just I invite people to participate in small groups where we have private online video conferences, just like this, like Google Hangout, but groups of about no more than 6 people. And it's basically just like a graduate seminar. We sit around and take turns basically presenting on our own work and commenting on it and asking questions and discussing it. And it basically just gives people feedback, and it gives people a structure for making progress on their own personal intellectual projects or whatever creative projects they might be working on or whatever. I'm not selling some kind of like magic formula. I'm not selling my charismatic personality cult leader or anything like that. I'm not really offering that much, other than quite transparently, I'm offering the structure, the time, the place. I facilitate it, and I'll give you my honest feedback and constructive criticism to help kind of push things along. But there's no kind of like a gimmick, really. It's really quite simple, but it's also really fucking cheap for, if even for, it's obviously cheap compared to graduate school programs and degrees, but it's even cheap compared to the other like independent online teaching stuff that you see. A lot of people who do, seminars or whatever, it's these like big branded, yeah, like I'm going to teach you how to make money, or, these types of things that often go for like quite a lot of money. And so, yeah, I'm only asking $25 a month. And I think, obviously if you're super strapped, that, that might be too much. But I think for people who are interested in this kind of thing, who have that lying around, I think that's the kind of value and the type of like product or experience that I'm very comfortable developing and putting out there for, and asking a little bit of money for it, because I'm confident that, for the people who have that kind of money to spare, it's more than worth it, really. It's certainly much cheaper than any other kind of alternative you can get. So that's the kind of thing I have a clean conscience about offering, especially as a part of a larger intellectual project. So yeah, that's been going really well. We have now like 10 people in it. When I first started, like I think a month or two ago, it was only like 5 people, and now it's like 10 people. So and I've gotten some good feedback on it. People seem to really be finding it useful for them. So yeah, little things like that seem to be promising. And my thinking is like, if people like that, and that's just a seminar where I'm not even teaching anything, I've been a teacher for several years, and I have a lot of teaching material, so I'm pretty confident that I can make something a little bit more focused and that people will find valuable. But you know what else? The beauty of what I'm doing, to be honest, is that if I take my teaching materials and let's say I take all my teaching materials that I currently have and I kind of improve them or polish them up a little bit. Let's say I turn them all into 3 different online courses and I put them on the internet. And let's say, I throw up some price tag on them, and nobody in the world wants to pay me for my fucking teaching materials and my online courses. That would be brilliant to learn. I would genuinely like to learn if everything I know and everything I have to teach, if it's literally worthless to the world, I would really like to know that, so that I can not bother with it, and that's one of the things that's really valuable about prices and like pricing things, is it just gives you a kind of clear, objective signal of whether people found it valuable or not. And if they do, great. If they don't, that's great too. Then not to waste your time on it. The thing with academia is like, if you're the person who teaches some class in a department, if you teach politics of the media in the Department of Politics, and that's just what you teach it once a year, you teach that damn class once a year for 50 years, whether people like it or not, whether people get any value from it, you don't know. You just don't know. You never really learn that in any kind of objective way. Of course, there are course evaluations, but the students most, there's, I don't need to go into that. There are many reasons to be highly suspect of all course evaluations in contemporary university context. So yeah, the point is, I'm attracted to the live and like harsh feedback of the market, to be honest with you. So yeah. What else we got in the chat? That's a bit of a rant. Lou Kessler asks about the symbolic and the real in Lacanian terms. I haven't read my Lacan in a while, so I'm going to pass on that. I actually have read a lot of Lacan. I have published papers that include pretty deep discussions of Lacan, but it's been a long time, and in the last 10 minutes, I'm not going to do justice to that. What else do we got? Drew Locke asks, am I still offering one-on-one sessions? I am totally available for one-on-one sessions of any kind, really. Just hit me up. We'll figure something out. What else we got? Nominal Knights asks me, Justin, are you excited for the up-and-coming discussion between Zizek and Peterson? Yeah, I heard about that. I mean, I'll definitely get my popcorn out. That sounds highly amusing. Man, I don't know. I think like the current kind of internet like the current moment for the internet and for, the intellectual life, I really just think it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I think a lot of it is so ridiculous, but these characters, man, the variety of people out there, just, making stuff, saying stuff, and the collision of worlds. It's just hilarious, man. Yeah, I'll definitely watch that with great amusement. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be two ships, passing in the night, but yeah, I'll watch that. Of course, why not? Maybe I'll live stream it. Maybe we can do like a live commentary or something like that. Have I heard of the new Jordan Peterson Fellowship? Google it. Only costs $65,000. I think you're bullshitting. That sounds funny though. Written in the chat by someone named Jordan B. Peterson. That's funny. That person in the chat whose name is Jordan B. Peterson and has the same logo as him. That's funny. Favorite mold bug posts? Tales of Ruin wants to know. I will answer a slightly different question, which is that one of the things I'm working on right now, actually, I just have notes for it, but it's one of those things where I started off as just an outline and some notes, but then I kind of got into it and it became extended notes to the point that now I think it's kind of making itself happen, whether I like it or not, is I want to do a course on something like, I want to call it something like neo-reaction for leftists, where I want to reread Nick Land's The Dark Enlightenment, and I want to go over all my Kindle highlights for the Moldbug texts. And I want to basically go over Nick Land and Moldbug, and I want to review what I think is worth knowing about them, because one of the most common questions I'm asked is, why should I care about Nick Land and Moldbug? Like, what's really so interesting? And obviously I'm kind of known for being someone who says, like, these texts are quite worth reading, and they do kind of represent, I think, something significant about, political theory in 2000, in the second decade of the 2000s, let's say. And so a lot of people ask me, like, why exactly? And I know a lot of people want to know more about that, and I think that'd be a fun little course to do, because I think the one of the best reasons to read Nick Land and Moldbug is if you're a leftist. Like, if you're a genuine radical leftist and you genuinely want to figure out how to overthrow institutions and foment positive social change, your biggest problem right now is the current face of the kind of salient, visible left wing, basically. The current face of the left is a kind of authoritarian leaning, sort of hijacking of the entire sort of left wing space, which is actually quite a wide space. And so if you're actually a smart person who's interested in engineering, like, radical collective liberation, and you want to figure out how that works and how to really do it, the first puzzle that is of the greatest importance is to understand who are these people who have risen to prominence as representatives of the left. What's going on with them? How do they work? How can you kind of conveniently and tractably unpack or analyze or kind of decompose what's going on with the left today, basically? And it makes perfect sense that the most kind of reactionary and kind of aggressive or fearless and intelligent right-wing writers are going to have the most valuable and kind of usefully, like, explosive pieces of dynamite to kind of shock and break up your kind of left-wing presumptions. And so I've made this case to a few people, kind of privately in person, that I really think leftists should read neo-reaction very seriously. And I don't mean, like, to know your enemy, like that idea that's very popular. Oh yeah, like, a lot of leftists say this. Yeah, we should read right-wing stuff because we want to really get into the heads of the enemy. I'm not saying that at all. No, I'm saying serious radical leftists who are honest and intelligent today should read neo-reaction for tips. I read Nick Land and Moldbug. I find them very useful for actually helping me to make progress on my own kind of vision for a genuine and workable kind of radical left-wing theory, really. And yeah, so I've been thinking about making a little course called something like Neo-Reaction for Leftists, where I basically, it'd be like a deep readings of Nick Land and Moldbug, specifically giving examples of what I'm talking about here, and kind of trying to make it understandable and useful for leftists, or at least like just normal centrist people who are interested in that. But just one of the many ideas really that I have. I have to kind of figure out a way to decide like what gets priority, in what sequence I'm going to do things. All right, what else do we got in here? All right, Tom Childers, welcome. I was talking with Tom in email today. Tom says that the cold sales of my collections of teaching materials would not be an effective evaluation of the value of my body of work. That's true, and I appreciate that. That's a good point. Yeah, no, but obviously, the price system is useful as a little tool or way of getting feedback, getting information about what people value and what they don't. Let's see. Tales of Ruin says that the Peterson Fellowship is real. I'll look into that. I haven't heard of that. Yeah, by the way, Tom Childers, I was emailing with Tom. Tom has some very interesting ideas about how to develop intellectual communities. Tom, I think, has some disagreements with my model, or I would just say I think he has some constructive points of opposition, and Tom has his own ideas. So yeah, I hope to talk about those more, and I hope Tom will share those more. What's up, Tom? Just wanted to give you a shout out because I remember talking with you today in email. Let's see. Finargle says an open letter to open-minded progressives. Yeah, that's true. But the thing with Moldbug is his writings are so long that most normal people don't want to sit through that. So as someone who's like read all of it, I want to go back over it and find a way to condense it all like radically and make it and try to make apparent more immediately to people, why I think it's worth reading. Mr. Spooner says there's a lot of middle ground to be found between the left and right via self-actualized communities. 100%, totally agree with that. And I think that's probably one of the things that a lot of people who follow my work, more or less agree on, because I know I have for my Discord server that I have this like little private community I've mentioned in here. You're all welcome if you want to just send me a message. I have this little like intake survey basically just to get a sense of like who's interested in this stuff. And there's I don't know if there's an even balance because I haven't actually analyzed the data, but there's a balance. There's something of a balance between left wing and right wing people. Like my audience is not clearly left or clearly right. And yeah, so that's definitely the direction I'm kind of going in. I mean, I still see myself as essentially in the mold of like a left wing revolutionary intellectual. I mean, that's how I've seen my mature academic career and intellectual career from the outset, and that's still basically how I see it. I just think we're in this weird place where the left is basically kind of monopolized by a very, very particular faction, and it's particularly stupid. And I don't think it's a selection problem. There are certain institutional and kind of economic factors that are bringing to the top of the contemporary left as an organized phenomenon certain of the dumbest and most repellent kind of factions within it. And I think that's just a problem that needs to be solved. It needs to be understood and it needs to be routed around. And I do think that for that reason, some right-wing ideas are very useful right now. And yeah, but ultimately, I'm kind of like Rousseau in that I'm a kind of radical left. I'm a radical leftist with respect to economics, but I imagine that in a kind of small scale democratic context. So no like state takeovers like Lenin or something like that. But I'm also kind of reactionary when it comes to things like religion and kind of social values. So that's basically like Rousseau. And Rousseau is basically kind of the sort of the founder, if you will, of modern leftism in some sense. given that he was basically one of the main inspirations for the French Revolution, at least, the intellectual inspirations. Obviously, there were deeper factors, but yeah, so obviously that's a big can of worms. And I shouldn't finish this live stream making sloppy historical assertions, but yeah. Anyway, Mr. Spooner says Moldbug will come back one day. I don't know. I wonder what he's going to do now. I mean, now that he's stepped away from Urbit, maybe he will start blocking again. That would be dope. Oh, by the way, I got an Urbit ship. So one of you fine people on the internet reached out to me and hooked me up with my Urbit ship. So now I'm able to go on Urbit. I just have to figure out how to do it and find some time to fuck around with it. So if any of you are on there, shoot me a message, because I'm probably going to need to discuss it with people. It's impossible to have a free society without widespread orgastic potency. Okay, Drama Mineralis. This is the person who's into Wilhelm Reich. Oh, final point before I wrap this baby up. I had this little experiment online where I'm basically giving away my books to people. I don't know how many of you got in on that, but for a few days I basically said, because we have to move, like we're selling all of our stuff, basically getting rid of all of our stuff in case I get fired. And so I have lots of books, and I basically said, if anyone wants one of my books, I'll give it to you for free. Just pay for shipping. And I got like 50 requests. And so if any of you did that, this was a few days ago, I closed it up because I don't want to get overwhelmed with requests. But if any of you did that, just want to give you the update that we're working hard on packing them up and sending them out. And yeah, there's some chance that I'm probably going to open up that back up. So if you want one of my books for free, you just have to pay shipping. Keep your eyes peeled. I'll probably open that up soon. Yeah, I got a shitload of books, and I can't afford to ship them all back to myself. So yeah, the reason I thought of that is because someone said Wilhelm Reich, and I one of the books I packed up today to send to someone was The Sexual Revolution by Reich. Tom says, you don't have to go looking for a figurative conservative to find out what they might think. I came to where we are now from being an arch conservative. Cool. Josh says, why not invite Moldbug on? I wonder if he would do something like this. He has done debates. Like I saw, you can find that YouTube debate where he talks with Robin Hanson. He might not be opposed to something like this. We'll have to see. Maybe if someone, 1 degree of separation from Moldbug can tell me if he might be amenable. Let's see. How would small-scale socialist or communist societies survive if the main problem facing anti-capitalist movements is capital flight and brain drain? Well, that's a very good question. And I'm already 4 minutes over my self-imposed limit for this evening's chat, so I'm not going to take a stab at that question. All right, folks. As I said, I'm going to be brutal with myself and not letting myself ramble for longer than I can handle. 1 hour is a perfectly fine unit of time. This was fun. Yeah, there was a few other possible talking points, but those are the main ones. We got plenty of time. Nominal nights. Sorry, I can never say that word. Nominal nights. Yes, I can try to answer that question next time. In fact, in all honesty, I did say this is a Q&A, so I should, and I will be responsible about actually taking questions. So I'm going to write that one down. Right. I will do my best to remember to answer it next time. And if I forget, you can just ask it again. I promise. But yeah, hit me up with that question earlier in the talk, people. If you can, next time, if you have questions for me that you really want me to answer, get those in early while my brain is freshest. And yeah, and if I don't see it, then just harass me and say this a second time. And I will do my best to, in these sessions on Thursday nights, I'm going to, I'll make a concerted effort to actually answer all the questions that I can. All right, so See, this is the problem. Once I'm rolling, I always want to keep going because once I'm talking, there's always more I could say, and I kind of get into the groove. But no, it's best that I hold myself to 1 hour, and that's what I'm going to do. So, folks, if you want to get into my Discord server, just shoot me a message. You can email me or shoot me a DM on Twitter or whatever. And folks, one thing I'll say before you leave is that if you've been thinking about becoming a patron or throwing me some recurring money each month, now would be a really good time to do it. If you don't have money, it's totally cool. There's no pressure. I'm never going to pressure you. I really don't care. Almost all my stuff is always going to be open to everyone. So, with some exceptions, obviously. But so no pressure at all. But if you've been thinking about it, now would be a really good time to do that. So just because I kind of need to get a sense of, like how much interest there is in stuff. And if, my membership is not going to increase at all, that's okay. I just want to learn sooner or later, like what kind of income from all of this I'm looking at. So I have to basically evaluate like all the different sources of that, really. All right, folks. So Mr. Spooner asks, how can I send you money? I mean, probably the most convenient way for people, like the most convenient way for you probably is through Patreon. But Patreon, I know, is in a lot of ways not desirable, and there's kind of a movement against it, which I totally respect. So you can also, on my website, theotherlifenow.com, if you go to the support page, you'll see there's a bunch of ways to throw me some money if you want to. Obviously, I'm most interested in the recurring kind because that allows me to kind of predictably invest in kind of doing more work on this front. But one-time contributions are always welcome too. And there's always the seminar. So yeah, if you're interested, there's going to be more stuff that I'm kind of putting out. So there's nothing wrong with waiting to see what I come up with over the next couple months. But if you're interested in something like having a really focused kind of collective intellectual session each month, a group of people to kind of constructively support you in the work that you're doing, just to answer your questions, to give feedback or whatever, and just kind of like some intellectual camaraderie each month, a way to kind of impose some social accountability on yourself, then the seminar seems to, people seem to really enjoy it and find it valuable so far. And people keep telling me that they think it's a really good idea and that I've really kind of hit the nail on the head in some regard. So that's one thing I'm kind of comfortable and confident kind of boosting a bit and saying that if you're at all interested in that, I think it seems to be working. And so I would encourage you to consider that if you want to. It's only $25 a month, but that's like, I think that's a very small amount of money for what it essentially is offering and what you're getting out of it. But for me, that's like that's a very generous chunk of change. Like I would only need, like, if there were like 30 people in the world who wanted that sort of thing under my umbrella, that would be like a huge chunk of change, really. And that would make a serious dent in my effort to figure out a kind of self-sustaining, financially sustainable system for being like a free radical intellectual. So but like I said, there's no pressure to do anything. I'm never going to beg anyone to do anything. I'm never going to pressure anyone to do anything. I'm just basically going to create things. I'm going to throw little price tags on things and experiment and see what people like, see what seems to work, see what makes people happy, and see what doesn't work, and just be totally flexible and open-minded and see what I'm able to create. So stay tuned. I will be back on here at the very least. I'll be back on here this time next week, and I'll be back on the live stream on Sunday with Mimetic Value on Twitter. You can look him up at Mimetic Value, and I put a tweet out about it also. And so that'll be Sunday at 10 o'clock p.m. I do believe. I wrote it down. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, which is 5 p.m. Eastern. So folks, thanks for hanging out with me. I'm glad to be back on the live stream circuit, if you will. And it's good to see some familiar faces. So if you have other questions that I didn't get to, just ask me next time. Yeah. All right, folks, take it easy, everyone. I will see you sooner than later. Made Fresh Holiday. Sorry, I told you that it was 9 p.m., aka 4 p.m. Eastern. So sorry you missed it. But yep, I'm out. All right. If any of you want to talk, just shoot me a message. Talk to you later.